Hey guys, it's Dan, and it is time for another book review. This time I'm reviewing The Feast and Other Horrifying Tales by David Vorhees. Now, David Vorhees, this is his debut, and this is a collection of short stories, and I just have to say, guys, one of the beautiful and really cool things that I have learned since I have joined the indie horror community is that there are so many good books out there, so many great reads are out there to be found. They're just not getting seen as much as the Stephen Kings and Anne Rices and all these other big name, big publisher authors. And guys, you guys have got to check this one out. I have to give David Vorhees a lot of props because some authors, when they're starting out, will submit short stories to anthologies. And they'll, maybe submit one short story to an anthology or to a magazine publication. But, what David has done is he has compiled a number of stories. There are a number of short stories that revolve around the idea, the concept, the main theme being that they are holiday-related, holiday-based. And when I say holiday, because I know when people hear holidays, they think of Christmas. No, this goes over holiday-themed horrors, you may say, dark fiction stories. The first one is a New Year's Day story, which I really enjoyed, and it kind of had, it kind of reminded me of Edgar Allan Poe's Telltale Heart. If you've never read A Telltale Heart, it's about this guy who murders somebody, and he feels so overwhelmed, like racked with guilt, that it's kind of like the heart is still beating, and it's beating so loud that he can hear it in his mind, and it causes him to confess to the murder. And not to spoil things, but you got to read the first story, and that's all I'll say is that it reminded me of Edgar Allan Poe's A Telltale Heart, and that's just the gist of it. You have to read the story because it's a modernized kind of telling like that. I don't think it's a direct retelling of the story per se, but it did remind me of that. Now, there are other stories. There was a Valentine's Day story about a stalker who was stalking some girl for a number of years and finally kidnaps her. And then there was a July 4th story that had to do with someone who was kind of overzealous and thinking about people as terrorists. And then there was another great one that I really enjoyed was the Easter one, which was subtitled The Resurrection. Now, that one I really enjoyed because it went over that people are fallible, that they're not perfect, and that they do make mistakes, and sometimes you just have to own up to your mistakes. And especially since the main character is a preacher, he's a priest, and he has done a lot of bad things, and it all catches up to him in the end. That one was another one that I really, really enjoyed. There was another story that I liked too, that was the Halloween one, which it was written like a poem. And I thought that was kind of different because the subject matter wasn't really something you would think that would be written that way. And that was another thing that I really enjoyed about this collection, was each story in its own was different from every other one. The only thing that tied them together were that they were holiday themed. The story I enjoyed the most was the self-titled story, The Feast, which was the representation for Thanksgiving. I really enjoyed that one because that one kind of had all these like twists and turns, and you thought you knew what was going on, but then you're like, I'm not really sure what's going on. But then you were reaffirmed that it was happening what you thought was happening, and it was just really beautifully well written. And I'm going to say, while I'm saying it's beautifully and very well written, that he is a Navy vet. I want to mention some of his other highlights. that he is a journalist too, because he went to the University of Phoenix for journalism, and he works for a newspaper. So yeah, he also, this guy has writing chops. He's not just somebody who's just never, taken any education in writing. So you can, be assured that he knows what he's doing. He knows what he's doing when he comes to writing. I really enjoyed this, though. I wasn't 100% sure I was going to like it as much as I did. And for those of you who are new to my channel, the way I rate collections of short stories is I rate each individual story a 1 through 5 star rating, and what I do is I total all those up and then, do the average. And I decided to give this a 4 out of 5 star rating. I really think this is worthwhile checking out. As I mentioned before, this is his debut. Go check this out, because if you, and I'm going to say this, I'm not going to recommend this for everyone, because some of the horror is kind of extreme. It might be repulsive to some people, some of the stories. I don't want to do trigger warnings. I find trigger warnings to be so cringy. But if you're reading horror and you need trigger warnings, you shouldn't be reading horror to begin with. But yeah, definitely, this is kind of borders on some more extreme horror. I'm gonna lean more towards Jack Ketchum, even though I've only read one Jack Ketchum so far. But I know the way Jack Ketchum writes. I know what some of his stories are, and I'm gonna lean towards that. I'm not sure that David Vorhees has been influenced by Jack Ketchum, but he does have that kind of element of, really, really dark, extreme horror with some of his stories. So they're not for everyone. If you know you can't handle that kind of horror, then maybe this book is not for you. But if it is something that's right up your alley, I definitely would say check this book out. Like I said, I rated this 4 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. For those of you in the U.S., I will have a link to Amazon for you to check this out for yourselves. I will also have an international link, which will be my bookshop.org. Bookshop.org tries to find you a seller location close to you, close to home, for you to pick up this book for yourselves. And I will also throw down my Ko-fi link if you don't mind donating $1 or $2. Every little bit helps, as I'm not getting AdSense. The thing that really frustrates me is that I grow, but then, the same time I gain a bunch of subscribers, I always lose a bunch of subscribers too. So it's it feels like you can never win. But it is what it is. If you came here looking for horror recommendations and reviews, please hit that subscriber button. While you're there, hit that notification bell. That's all I got for you guys. Like I said, great collection of short stories, and it's not every day that you see an author combine, and especially with a debut, showcase a collection of short stories. This has been Dan. Be good to each other.